The first phone call came while I was standing alone at the altar. Not from my mother, not from my father, not from my best man. It came from my wedding planner. Emma, her voice cracked. I think your family isn't coming. For a second I honestly thought she was joking. I looked around the old stone chapel we'd rented outside Asheville, North Carolina. White roses lined every pew. Sunlight spilled through stained glass windows, painting little patches of blue and gold across the polished floor. Everything was exactly the way I'd imagined it for 18 months. Except the left side of the chapel. 42 empty seats, every single one reserved for my family. I laughed. Actually laughed. They're probably stuck in traffic. My planner didn't answer. Instead, she slowly handed me her phone. A Facebook Live video. There was my mother, smiling, holding a champagne flute. Behind her hung a giant banner. Happy 30th birthday, Lucy. Music blasted through expensive outdoor speakers while people danced around the backyard of my parents' house. My father was grilling steaks. My aunt was laughing. My cousins were opening presents. Even my grandmother, the woman who hadn't traveled in over 2 years because of arthritis, was sitting comfortably under a decorated tent. Every single person who had RSVP'd yes to my wedding was celebrating my sister's birthday. On my wedding day, at exactly the same time, my stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up. Ryan walked over in his tuxedo. His smile disappeared the second he looked at my face. What happened? I couldn't speak. I simply held up the phone. He watched 10 seconds before muttering, "You've got to be kidding me." I wish they had been, because what happened over the next 12 hours changed every relationship in my life forever. And those 36 missed calls, they didn't start until it was already far too late. Growing up, everything revolved around Lucy. If Lucy wanted piano lessons, she got a grand piano. When I wanted guitar lessons, Mom bought me a used guitar from a yard sale. If Lucy got AB+, everyone celebrated how hard she'd worked. When I graduated first in my class, Dad said, "That's expected from you." Those words followed me for years. Expected, reliable, responsible, independent. Meanwhile, Lucy was creative, sensitive, free-spirited. Those were the polite words. The real words were spoiled, selfish, and incapable of hearing the word no. I don't think she became that way on her own. My parents built her that way. Every bad decision became someone else's fault. Every broken promise received another excuse. Every mistake somehow became an opportunity for everyone else to comfort her. By 29, she had switched careers 7 times, quit college twice, moved back into my parents' house 3 separate times, and somehow, she remained the favorite. I stopped competing years ago. Instead, I built my own life. I became a pediatric nurse, worked double shifts, saved every bonus, bought my own townhouse at 28, met Ryan during a charity marathon after he accidentally spilled sports drink all over my running shirt. His opening line, "I promise I'm usually less destructive," it was terrible. I laughed anyway. 3 years later, he proposed during a camping trip beside a mountain lake. No photographers, no audience, just us, exactly the way I wanted. When we announced our engagement, everyone seemed happy. Even Lucy. She hugged me tightly. "I'm so excited for you." Looking back, I wonder whether she already had plans. We picked October because it was everyone's favorite season. Cool weather, colorful leaves, perfect for an outdoor ceremony. Our save-the-date cards went out 14 months early. Every important relative confirmed almost immediately. Mom even cried when she saw the venue. "This is going to be the happiest day of our family's life." I believed her. 6 months before the wedding, Lucy mentioned she wanted a destination birthday trip. Nobody paid much attention. She changed birthday ideas every year. Vegas, Miami, Nashville, cruise, cabin. Nothing ever happened. Then one Sunday, Mom casually mentioned something during brunch. "So, Lucy's thinking about having a birthday party here." I smiled. "That'll be fun." Mom hesitated. "She really wants October 18th. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. "My wedding is October 18th. "I know." Silence. Then Mom continued, "But birthdays only happen once a year." I stared at her. "So do weddings." She laughed nervously. "It'll probably be dinner after your ceremony." I didn't like it, but I let it go. That became a habit. Over the next few months, strange things kept happening. Family members stopped talking about the wedding. Instead, every conversation became about Lucy's party. What color balloons? What caterer? What playlist? Whenever I tried discussing seating charts or flowers, people quickly changed the subject. Ryan noticed first. They're acting weird. They're just distracted. You sure? I wasn't. But I wanted peace more than being right. Then came Labor Day weekend. I walked into my parents' kitchen and found mood boards covering the entire island. Professional decorations, custom cocktails, rental furniture, live band options. For Lucy's birthday. Mom smiled brightly. Look! I blinked. This looks expensive. Dad shrugged. Milestone birthday. I couldn't stop myself. My wedding budget is smaller than her birthday budget. Nobody answered. Lucy finally spoke. You've had 18 months to enjoy being the bride. I frowned. What does that mean? She folded her arms. I deserve one special weekend too. Weekend. Not day. Weekend. I suddenly understood. You planned your party during my wedding weekend. So everyone has to choose. She rolled her eyes. No, they don't. 3 weeks before the ceremony, my cousin Megan accidentally called me instead of Lucy. She was driving, talking through Bluetooth. I think Emma's going to lose it if she finds out. I frowned. Find out what? Silence. Megan. Oh. She whispered one word. Crap. After several minutes of apologizing, she finally admitted the truth. Mom had created a private family group chat. Without me. Its name. Team Lucy. Inside were schedules, carpool arrangements, party planning, hotel cancellations, and discussions about whether attending my wedding was really necessary. I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because my brain couldn't process anything else. Megan, how many people are in that chat? She quietly answered. Everyone. I sat in my parked car for nearly an hour afterward. Everyone. Not almost everyone. Everyone. That night I confronted Mom. She didn't deny it. Instead, she sighed dramatically. You weren't supposed to know. I wasn't supposed to know my family planned to skip my wedding. It's not like that. Then explain it. She rubbed her temples. Lucy gets emotional. So, if people leave her birthday early to attend your reception, she'll be devastated. I stared. You want people to skip my wedding so Lucy doesn't get sad? Mom looked genuinely confused. When you say it like that, it sounds terrible. Because it was terrible. Dad walked in halfway through. He listened for less than 30 seconds before saying, Emma, be the bigger person. Those 5 words shattered something inside me. I've been the bigger person my entire life. No, you're being dramatic. Dramatic. Your sister needs us. I laughed bitterly. For what? Neither of them answered. I left. Ryan was waiting in the driveway. He took one look at me. They chose her. I nodded. He wrapped his arms around me while I cried harder than I had since childhood. We can cancel. No. We can elope. No. We can do whatever you want. I wiped my eyes. I'm getting married. Even if nobody comes. He smiled softly. Then I'll be there. The next morning something unexpected happened. Our wedding website suddenly filled with cancellations. One after another. 37 guests. Then 41. Then 48. Every cancellation carried nearly identical wording. So sorry. Family emergency. Unexpected conflict. Can't make it. None mentioned Lucy. None needed to. By the end of the day, nearly every person related to me had canceled. Ryan's family still planned to come. My friends still planned to come. But my own blood had disappeared. I should have called everything off. Maybe most people would have. Instead, I did something that confused even me. I called every vendor, every florist, every caterer, every musician. I confirmed every booking. Nothing changed. If my family wanted me to feel abandoned, they were going to watch me stand proudly anyway, even if they never showed up. What I didn't know was that someone inside Lucy's party had already started feeling guilty. And before the weekend was over, one secret would destroy my parents' perfect family forever. The first person to betray my sister wasn't a stranger. It wasn't one of my friends. It wasn't even someone who particularly liked me. It was my 17-year-old cousin Ava. She texted me at 10:43 that night. Ava, Please don't tell anyone I messaged you. A minute later, another message appeared. Ava, I think you need to know what's really happening. I stared at my phone for several seconds before replying. Me. I'm listening. 3 little dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally she wrote, Ava, your wedding isn't just conflicting with Lucy's party. Ava, the party was planned to replace your wedding. I read that sentence 3 times. Replace my wedding. What did that even mean? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Ava. I picked up immediately. Tell me everything. She took a shaky breath. They've been talking about this for months. Talking about what? About making sure nobody left Lucy alone. I don't understand. You weren't supposed to have the attention. The words settled like ice in my stomach. What are you saying? I'm saying, Aunt Karen kept telling everyone Lucy's turning 30 only happens once. So your wedding could happen anytime. I laughed bitterly. No. Weddings literally can't happen anytime. I know. Who said that? She hesitated. Mostly your mom. That hurt more than I expected, because somewhere inside me, I'd still been hoping this had all been Lucy's idea. That maybe my parents had simply gone along with it. Instead, they were leading it. Ryan found me sitting on our kitchen floor after the call ended. I hadn't even realized I'd slid down the cabinets. He quietly sat beside me. Neither of us spoke for nearly 5 minutes. Finally he asked, More bad news? I nodded. My mom planned all of it. He leaned his head back against the cupboard. I was afraid of that. I kept thinking she'd wake up. What do you mean? I thought eventually she'd realize she's missing her daughter's wedding. Ryan looked at me carefully. I don't think this is about realizing. It's about choosing. That sentence hurt because it was true. People don't accidentally miss weddings. Especially their own daughters. They choose. The next morning I drove to the chapel alone. Not because I needed to. Because I wanted to see something that hadn't disappointed me yet. The venue sat on top of a hill overlooking rows of turning maple trees. The caretaker, Mr. Collins, was trimming hedges when he saw me. Bit early. I needed some quiet. He nodded as though he understood. You nervous? I smiled. Not anymore. No. I think I've run out of emotions. He chuckled softly. I've hosted weddings for 23 years. And the happiest ones are never the biggest. I looked at the empty chairs stacked against the wall. I hope you're right. He studied my face. You expecting trouble? I almost told him everything. Instead I simply said, My family won't be here. He looked genuinely surprised. None of them. I shook my head. He didn't ask why. He simply placed a warm hand on my shoulder. Then we'll make sure the people who do come feel like enough. It was such a simple sentence. But nobody in my own family had said anything half as kind. 2 days later, my Aunt Susan called. I almost ignored it. Instead I answered, Hi. She sounded uncomfortable. Sweetheart, are you calling to cancel too? Silence. Then, I already canceled. I know. I just wanted you to understand. Understand what? Your mother asked us. I closed my eyes. Asked you what? To support Lucy. I laughed without humor. Support her from what? Susan whispered. Being overshadowed. I nearly dropped the phone. Overshadowed. She said Lucy's struggled her whole life being compared to you. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Compared? Lucy had been praised for everything. Protected from consequences. Handed opportunities one had worked years for. Compared? I've spent 30 years disappearing so she could shine. Susan sighed. I know. No. You don't. Another long silence. Then she quietly admitted. I should have stood up for you. Why didn't you? I didn't want problems with your mother. There it was. The answer I'd heard my whole life. Keeping peace. Keeping appearances. Keeping Mom happy. Even if it meant sacrificing me. By Wednesday, the wedding was only 3 days away. Ryan's parents arrived from Ohio. His mother hugged me, so tightly I almost cried. Oh, sweetheart. I'm okay. No. She gently held my face. You've been pretending you're okay. I couldn't answer. She looked toward Ryan. Has she eaten today? Ryan scratched the back of his neck. Half a granola bar. His mother immediately walked into the kitchen. I'm making soup. His father opened the refrigerator. I'll grill tonight. I watched them move around our house like it belonged to family. Actual family. Nobody mentioned my parents. Nobody criticized me. Nobody asked me to forgive anyone. They simply took care of me. That evening we all ate together. Halfway through dinner, Ryan's dad raised his glass. To Emma. Everyone smiled. To Emma. I felt tears filling my eyes. Ryan squeezed my hand beneath the table. Later that night, I admitted something I'd never said aloud. I don't think I want them there anymore. Ryan looked surprised. My parents. I nodded. I spent weeks hoping they'd change their minds. And now, I searched for the words. I think if they suddenly showed up pretending nothing happened, I'd rather they didn't. He kissed my forehead. I understand. For the first time all week. I believed him. Thursday afternoon, another surprise arrived. The florist delivered an extra arrangement. Huge. White orchids. Cream roses. Fresh eucalyptus. More expensive than anything we'd ordered. There must be a mistake. The delivery driver checked his paperwork. Nope. It was paid in full. By who? He smiled. Anonymous. There was no card. No note. Nothing. Just flowers. I assumed one of Ryan's relatives had sent them. I wouldn't discover the truth until much later. That evening my phone buzzed again. Lucy. I debated ignoring it. Curiosity won. Hello. She sounded cheerful. Almost excited. Hey. What do you want? Ouch. What do you want, Lucy? She laughed. You don't have to sound so angry. You scheduled a birthday party during my wedding. You still on that? Still on that? I closed my eyes. What do you need? I wanted to ask a favor. Of course she did. What? Could you wrap things up by 3? What? So people can make it to my party. For several seconds I couldn't speak. She continued as though discussing the weather. The band starts at 4. My voice came out almost whispering. You want me to shorten my wedding? For your birthday? Only a little. I actually laughed. A broken laugh. You really think I'm going to do that? Why are you making everything difficult? I'm making things difficult? You've always had to be dramatic. Something inside me snapped. No, Lucy. What? You don't get my wedding. What does that mean? It means Saturday belongs to me. She scoffed. We'll see. Then she hung up. I replayed that conversation in my head all night, not because of what she'd said, because of how calm she'd been. She genuinely believed she was entitled to my wedding day. That level of confidence doesn't happen by accident. Someone had taught her. Friday morning, one day before the wedding, I drove to my parents' house. Not to beg, not to argue. I wanted my grandmother's necklace. She'd promised it to me years earlier. Mom answered the door wearing yoga clothes. Oh. She looked annoyed. I wasn't expecting you. I just came for Grandma's necklace. Her expression changed immediately. What necklace? The pearl necklace Grandma wanted me to wear. Mom folded her arms. Lucy has it. I frowned. Why? She borrowed it. For a birthday party? Mom shrugged. It matches her dress. I stared at her. You're kidding. It's only jewelry. No. It's Grandma's. Mom sighed dramatically. You can't wear something else. That necklace was the only thing my grandmother had personally given me before dementia stole most of her memories. She'd held my hand in the nursing home and whispered, This belongs to you one day. Now Lucy was wearing it. To blow out birthday candles. I want it back. I'll ask her after the party. No. Before my wedding. Mom shook her head. I don't want to upset her. There it was again. Always protecting Lucy. Always. I looked around the house I'd grown up in. Family photos covered every wall. Birthdays, vacations, Christmas mornings. In almost every picture, Lucy stood in the center. I stood somewhere near the edge. I'd never noticed before. Now it was impossible to ignore. I think I'm done. Mom frowned. Done with what? Trying. She rolled her eyes. You'll get over this. I looked directly at her. No, I won't. Then I walked away. She didn't stop me. She didn't call after me. She simply closed the front door. That evening, while everyone else attended our rehearsal dinner, one chair remained empty. My parents'. Another empty chair belonged to my father. Another to Lucy. Another to Grandma. I kept glancing toward the entrance anyway. Habit. Hope. Denial. Ryan finally leaned close. They're not coming. I know. You don't have to keep looking. I nodded. But I still looked. Because no matter how old we become, part of us always waits for our parents to choose us. Mine never did. What I didn't know was that less than 24 hours later, someone at Lucy's birthday party would make a decision that would turn her celebration into absolute chaos. And by sunset, 15 minutes before the ceremony, I peeked through the chapel doors. Ryan's side was full. His grandparents, his cousins, old college friends, co-workers, neighbors, smiles everywhere. Then I looked left. 42 empty chairs, perfectly arranged, perfectly vacant. Rachel quietly stood beside me. We can remove them. I shook my head. No. Emma, I want people to see. See what? The choice they made. She didn't argue. The music began. The chapel doors opened. Every person stood. I stepped forward. For years I'd imagined my father walking beside me. Instead, I walked alone. One step, then another. The silence felt enormous. Not because people pitied me, because they respected me. Halfway down the aisle I saw Ryan. He was crying, not hiding it, not embarrassed, just openly crying. When I reached him, he whispered, "You look incredible." I smiled through tears. "You stayed." He looked confused. There was never another option. That sentence healed something I didn't realize had been broken. Our officiant looked at both of us. We're gathered here today because two people chose each other. Chose. That word echoed inside me. Choice. Love wasn't obligation. Family wasn't biology. Everything came down to choice. When it came time for vows, Ryan went first. I spent years believing love meant finding someone who makes life easier. He laughed softly. I was wrong. Everyone smiled. You make me stronger, not because life is easy with you, but because you've shown me what courage actually looks like. He glanced toward the empty side of the chapel. You kept choosing kindness, even when people gave you reasons not to. His voice cracked. I promise that from today forward, you'll never wonder whether someone chooses you. There wasn't a dry eye in the room, including mine. When my turn came, I unfolded a small piece of paper, then folded it again. I don't need this. Ryan smiled. I knew you wouldn't. I looked directly at him. When I met you, I thought you were just the guy who ruined my running shirt. Laughter filled the chapel. 15 minutes before the ceremony, I peeked through the chapel doors. Ryan's side was full. His grandparents, his cousins, old college friends, co-workers, neighbors, smiles everywhere. Then I looked left. 42 empty chairs, perfectly arranged, perfectly vacant. Rachel quietly stood beside me. We can remove them. I shook my head. No. Emma, I want people to see. See what? The choice they made. She didn't argue. The music began. The chapel doors opened. Every person stood. I stepped forward. For years I'd imagined my father walking beside me. Instead, I walked alone. One step, then another. The silence felt enormous. Not because people pitied me, because they respected me. Halfway down the aisle I saw Ryan. He was crying, not hiding it, not embarrassed, just openly crying. When I reached him, he whispered, "You look incredible." I smiled through tears. "You stayed." He looked confused. There was never another option. That sentence healed something I didn't realize had been broken. Our officiant looked at both of us. We're gathered here today because two people chose each other. Chose. That word echoed inside me. Choice. Love wasn't obligation. Family wasn't biology. Everything came down to choice. When it came time for vows, Ryan went first. I spent years believing love meant finding someone who makes life easier. He laughed softly. I was wrong. Everyone smiled. You make me stronger, not because life is easy with you, but because you've shown me what courage actually looks like. He glanced toward the empty side of the chapel. You kept choosing kindness, even when people gave you reasons not to. His voice cracked. I promise that from today forward, you'll never wonder whether someone chooses you. There wasn't a dry eye in the room, including mine. When my turn came, I unfolded a small piece of paper, then folded it again. I don't need this. Ryan smiled. I knew you wouldn't. I looked directly at him. When I met you, I thought you were just the guy who ruined my running shirt. Laughter filled the chapel. I never imagined you'd become the safest place I've ever known. He wiped another tear away. I've spent years trying to become enough for people. I paused. You never asked me to. You loved me before I proved anything. I took both his hands. So today, I stopped chasing people who keep walking away. And I start building a life with the man who always walks toward me. The chapel erupted into applause before I had even finished. When the officiant finally said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife," Ryan kissed me. The entire room stood cheering. It wasn't the wedding I'd imagined as a little girl. It was better, because every single person there wanted to be there. No obligations. No guilt. Just love. The reception surprised me. Not because anything went wrong. Because everything went right. Ryan's aunt insisted on teaching everyone swing dancing. His grandfather somehow convinced 20-year-olds to line dance. The flower girl stole 3 cupcakes before dinner. Someone started a spontaneous karaoke contest. People laughed. People hugged us. Nobody whispered about my family. Nobody treated me like a victim. At one point I realized I hadn't thought about Lucy in nearly an hour. That felt like freedom. It was during dinner that my phone vibrated for the first time. Mom. Declined. 30 seconds later. Dad. Declined. Then Lucy. Declined. Ryan glanced at me. You okay? Perfect. You don't seem surprised. I decided something today. What? If they weren't available for my wedding, I'm not available during it. He smiled. I like that plan. I turned my phone completely off. The speeches began. Ryan's best man had everyone laughing. Rachel somehow managed to make the entire room cry. Then Ryan's father stood. He looked toward me. I wasn't planning to say this. My stomach tightened. But after today, I think it matters. He cleared his throat. I watched Emma walk herself down the aisle. Silence filled the room. I don't know the circumstances. And frankly, I don't need to. He looked directly at me. Because anyone who could leave this remarkable young woman standing alone doesn't deserve the privilege of walking beside her. My eyes filled instantly. He smiled warmly. Our family gained a daughter today. You'll never stand alone again. People applauded for nearly a full minute. I couldn't stop crying. Not because I was sad. Because someone had finally said the words I'd needed to hear. We left the reception just after 9. Our guests lined both sides of the walkway holding sparklers. Cheers echoed across the vineyard. Ryan opened the passenger door for me. Ready? I nodded. As long as it's with you. We drove toward our honeymoon cabin an hour away. About 15 minutes into the drive, I turned my phone back on. It exploded. Missed call. Missed call. Missed call. Voicemail. Text. Voicemail. Call again. The screen kept scrolling. Ryan looked over. How many? I counted twice. 12 missed calls. Then more came in. 13. 14. 15. All family. Every single one. My heart pounded. For one terrifying moment, I thought someone had died. I immediately called my grandmother's nursing home. She was fine. I called Ava. She answered on the first ring. Emma! What happened? You don't know. No. Oh my God. Her breathing sounded frantic. The party. What about it? It completely fell apart. How? You really don't know? No. She took another breath. Someone exposed Lucy. I spread through my chest. What does that mean? There was a slideshow. A slideshow. For her birthday. And the wrong file played. I frowned. What wrong file? I don't know who switched it, but instead of birthday pictures, everyone saw screenshots. My grip tightened around the phone. Screenshots of what? Ava whispered. The family group chat. Every message. Every joke. Every cruel comment about my wedding. Displayed on a 12-foot projector. In front of more than 100 guests. I couldn't breathe. What? There were screenshots of Aunt Karen saying your wedding wasn't important. My mother's words. There were messages from Uncle Mike laughing about empty chairs. There were comments about betting whether you'd cry. I closed my eyes. No. There were screenshots of Lucy saying. Ava stopped. Saying what? You really want to know? Tell me. Her voice became barely audible. She wrote, once Emma's wedding flops, everyone will finally remember whose weekend this really is. The car fell completely silent. Ryan looked over. What happened? I slowly lowered the phone. They knew. What? They wanted my wedding to fail. Before either of us could say another word, my phone rang again. Mom. Then Dad. Then Lucy. Again. And again. And again. I had no idea why they were suddenly desperate to reach me, but I knew one thing with absolute certainty. Whatever had happened at that birthday party, it was only the beginning. I didn't answer the 16th call, or the 17th, or the 18th. For years, I'd answered every call from my family. It didn't matter if I was working a 12-hour shift. Didn't matter if I was sick. Didn't matter if I was exhausted. If my mother called, I picked up. If Lucy needed something, I dropped everything. But on my wedding night, while my brand-new husband drove us toward our honeymoon cabin through the Blue Ridge Mountains, I simply watched my phone vibrate across my lap. For the first time in my life. They could wait. Ryan kept one hand on the steering wheel and reached over with the other. You don't have to answer. I know. You also don't have to guess. What do you mean? If it's important, they'll leave a voicemail. He was right. Within seconds, another notification appeared. Voicemail from Mom. Then another. Voicemail from Dad. Then one from Lucy. Then my Aunt Susan. Then Uncle Mike. Then 2 cousins. By the time we reached the cabin, there were 22 missed calls. The cabin sat beside a quiet lake hidden between tall pines. Months earlier, I'd imagined arriving there glowing with happiness after dancing the night away with my parents. Instead, I unlocked the door carrying a phone full of panic. Ryan placed our bags inside. Want to listen? I stared at the screen. No. You sure? If they've spent months ignoring me, they can spend one night wondering why I'm ignoring them. He smiled softly. I like this version of you. I wasn't sure I did. Setting boundaries felt strangely unfamiliar. Like wearing someone else's shoes. Uncomfortable. Necessary. The next morning, I finally pressed play. Mom's voicemail came first. Emma, sweetheart, please call me. She was crying. There was a misunderstanding. Delete. Dad's voicemail. Emma, answer your phone. Pause. You need to come home. Delete. Lucy. This isn't funny. Delete. Uncle Mike. We need to explain. Delete. Aunt Susan. Please listen before you decide anything. Delete. Every voicemail sounded the same. Not one started with, I'm sorry. Not one asked, how was your wedding? Not one said, I hope you're happy. They wanted something. That much was obvious. Around noon, Ava called again. This time I answered, tell me everything. You've only heard part of it. I'm listening. She took a deep breath. The slideshow was supposed to be pictures of Lucy growing up. So how did the screenshots appear? Nobody knows. Somebody had to put them there. I know. What happened after people saw them? Ava actually laughed. Chaos. What kind of chaos? People thought it was fake at first. But then Grandma recognized Mom's profile picture. I frowned. Grandma was there? Yeah. What did she do? She asked your mom. Karen, is this real? I closed my eyes. And nobody answered. According to Ava, the room went completely silent. One screenshot after another filled the projector. There was my mother's message. Emma will understand. She's always been mature. Then another from my father. Don't tell her until it's too late to change the wedding date. Then one from Lucy. If people feel guilty, they'll probably skip her ceremony anyway. Another. My aunt. This feels cruel. Mom's reply. Emma will get over it. Lucy won't. Then came the message that changed everything. Not because it was the cruelest. Because of who wrote it. Grandma. 3 weeks before the wedding. I don't think this is right. Mom had responded. Stay out of it. The room apparently exploded. People started talking all at once. Someone turned off the projector. Someone else demanded answers. My father blamed a technical error. Nobody believed him. What did Lucy do? I asked. Ava sighed. She screamed. At who? Everyone. What do you mean? She kept yelling that somebody ruined her birthday. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because somehow, even after all that, Lucy still believed she was the victim. Then Ava told me something I hadn't expected. Grandma stood up. I smiled a little. My grandmother? Yep. She almost never stands. I know. What did she say? Ava repeated the words as best she remembered. I've lived 83 years. I've buried a husband. I've survived cancer. But I have never been more ashamed of this family. Tears filled my eyes. Ava continued. Then she looked straight at your mother. You chose the wrong daughter. I couldn't speak. Grandma. The woman who barely remembered breakfast some mornings. The woman whose dementia came and went like tides. In the one moment it mattered most, she remembered everything. And then, she left. Just left. With her walker. Nobody followed her. Everyone else stayed arguing. The biggest surprise came next. It wasn't anonymous. What wasn't? The slideshow. The screenshots. Someone admitted it. Yeah. Who? Your cousin Megan. I nearly dropped the phone. Megan. She said she couldn't watch everyone pretend anymore. Apparently, she'd copied the screenshots weeks earlier after accidentally being added as an administrator in the group chat. She planned to send them to me. Then she changed her mind. I didn't want to ruin your wedding, Ava explained. So she waited until the party started. Why? So nobody could stop it. Megan later told everyone exactly why she'd done it. If Emma had exposed you before the wedding, you would have called her dramatic. But now, everyone saw who you really are. There wasn't much anyone could say after that. That afternoon, Ryan and I took a walk around the lake. The air smelled like pine needles and rain. For the first time since Saturday, I breathed deeply. You okay? He asked. I think so. What are you thinking? I skipped a small stone across the water. They're only sorry because everyone found out. He nodded. If that slideshow never happened, they'd still be celebrating. He didn't disagree, because we both knew it was true. When we returned to the cabin, there were 29 missed calls. Then 30, 31, 32. My phone rang again. This time, Grandma. I answered immediately. Grandma. Her voice sounded tired. Emma. I'm here. You got married? I smiled. I did. Were you beautiful? I laughed through tears. I hope so. I'm sure you were. A long pause. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I looked at Ryan. You wanted to come. I did. I know. They told me. She struggled for words. They told me it was postponed. I froze. What? They said. The wedding moved to next month. Every muscle in my body went rigid. What did you say? I believed them. No. No. They lied to you. I have trouble remembering dates. Her voice cracked. They said not to worry. Suddenly everything made sense. Grandma hadn't chosen Lucy. She'd been deceived. They even packed my blue dress away. I couldn't stop crying. She whispered, I would have come. I know. I wanted to dance with you. I know. I'm so sorry. You don't have to apologize. No. No. None of this was your fault. After hanging up, I sat silently on the porch. Ryan joined me. What happened? They lied to Grandma. His expression hardened. What? They told her the wedding was postponed. He stared at me. They manipulated an 83-year-old woman with dementia to keep her away from your wedding. I nodded. He said nothing for almost a full minute. Finally he muttered, I don't know your parents anymore. Neither did I. That evening came call number 33. Then 34. 35. Finally, call number 36. Mom. For reasons I still can't fully explain. I answered. Neither of us spoke at first. Then she whispered, Emma. What? We need to talk. No. Please. You had 18 months. She started crying again. You don't understand. Then explain. Another silence. Finally she said something that stunned me. Lucy knew something. About your father. I frowned. What are you talking about? That's why we kept choosing her. The world seemed to stop. What? It wasn't just favoritism. It was... She couldn't finish. My grip tightened on the phone. What does Lucy know? Mom whispered 5 words. 5 words that made every decision my parents had made over the last decade suddenly look completely different. She knew about the money. I stared at the lake. The money! Your father has been hiding something from everyone. And in that moment, I realized the birthday party, the wedding, the favoritism. None of it had been the whole story. The truth was even bigger. And my parents had just opened a door they would never be able to close. The money! I sat frozen on the porch, the phone pressed so tightly against my ear that my fingers hurt. My mother's breathing was uneven. I shouldn't have said anything. You already did. Emma. No. My voice stayed calm. For once in your life, tell me the whole truth. On the other end of the line, I heard my father. Karen, hang up. Then muffled arguing. Then silence. Finally, my mother whispered. It started 11 years ago. 11 years earlier. I was 22, fresh out of nursing school, working night shifts, trying to pay off my student loans. Lucy had just dropped out of college for the first time. According to Mom, that same year my grandfather had passed away. I remember the funeral. I remembered crying. I remembered Grandpa squeezing my hand in the hospital days before he died. What I didn't remember was the will, because nobody had ever told me there was one. Mom took another shaky breath. Your grandfather left money. How much? Mom. Almost $800,000. I felt the blood drain from my face. What? It wasn't just cash. There were investments, land, life insurance. Everything inside me went still. I never received anything. No, you didn't. Because your father, she began crying again, changed the paperwork. Ryan had been standing inside the cabin, giving me privacy. The moment he saw my face, he walked outside. What's wrong? I covered the phone. I think my grandfather left me an inheritance. Ryan frowned. What? And my parents hid it. His expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. Mom continued. The original will divided everything equally. You, Lucy, and me. My grandfather had believed in fairness. That sounded exactly like him. So what changed? Your father convinced Grandpa to create a trust. A trust? He said you'd waste the money. I laughed. I was working 70-hour weeks. I know. He said Lucy needed more help. Of course he did. Always Lucy. Always. So where did the money go? Silence. Mom. He invested it. For himself. For the family. Answer the question. Finally, he controlled everything. Pieces started falling into place. The expensive birthday parties. Lucy never worrying about bills. My parents constantly helping her financially. The vacations. The renovations. Everything they'd claimed they couldn't afford had apparently been paid for with money Grandpa intended to benefit all of us. I wasn't even angry about the money itself. I was angry about the lie. A lie that had lasted more than a decade. Why tell me now? Mom answered immediately. Because Lucy threatened your father. I blinked. Threatened him. She wanted more money. And he refused. So she said she'd tell everyone where it came from. I leaned back in my chair. So that's why you've always protected her. Mom whispered. She knew enough to destroy us. Suddenly, their behavior over the years looked different. Not better. Different. Every time Lucy demanded something, they gave in. Every tantrum. Every ridiculous request. Every selfish decision. They weren't parenting. They were negotiating. Trying to keep her quiet. Ryan quietly sat beside me. I placed the call on speaker. He listened without interrupting. Mom kept talking. We thought we were protecting the family. No. I finally answered. You were protecting yourselves. The next morning, before we could decide what to do, someone knocked on the cabin door. I opened it. Standing there was my cousin Megan. She looked exhausted. I drove 4 hours. You found us. Ryan's mom told me. I stepped aside. Come in. The first thing she did was hand me a thick manila envelope. I think this belongs to you. Inside were copies, bank statements, emails, screenshots, trust documents, property records, my grandfather's original handwritten will. My hand started shaking. There it was, in black ink, to my granddaughters Emma and Lucy, equally, exactly as Mom had said. Then another document, created 3 weeks later, a revised trust, signed while Grandpa was heavily medicated after surgery. Ryan looked over my shoulder. This doesn't feel right. Megan nodded. It wasn't. I've had these for months, she admitted. I looked up. What? I found them while helping Uncle David clean Grandpa's office. Why didn't you tell me? I was scared. Scared of what? Your dad. Apparently, my father had spent years insisting the paperwork remain private. Whenever relatives asked about Grandpa's estate, he would simply say, everything's handled. No one questioned him. Until now. 2 days later, we met an attorney. I wasn't looking for revenge. I wanted answers. The attorney spent nearly 2 hours reviewing every document. Finally, he removed his glasses. Mrs. Carter. I still wasn't used to hearing Ryan's last name. Yes. If these documents are authentic, they appear to raise serious legal concerns. He didn't promise I'd win. He didn't make dramatic predictions. He simply said, "You deserve a full accounting." That was enough. Word spread through the family faster than I expected. Within a week, people stopped calling to defend my parents. Instead, they started apologizing. My Aunt Susan came first. She cried the moment I opened the door. "I failed you." "You did." "I know." She didn't argue. She didn't make excuses. She simply admitted it. Oddly enough, that helped. Because accountability sounds very different from justification. Then Uncle Mike arrived. The same man who had joked in the group chat about my empty wedding chairs. "I owe you an apology." "You do." I was ashamed after seeing those screenshots. I folded my arms. "So why did you write them?" He stared at the floor. "Because everyone else was." That sentence haunted me. How many people hurt others simply because the crowd made it seem acceptable? Too many. Lucy didn't apologize. Not once. Instead, she posted vague messages online about toxic family members and being misunderstood. A few people believed her. Most didn't. The screenshots had already spoken louder than any status update ever could. 3 weeks later, my parents asked to meet. Against every instinct, I agreed. Not because I wanted reconciliation. Because I wanted closure. We met in a quiet coffee shop halfway between our homes. Mom looked older. Dad looked exhausted. Nobody hugged. Nobody smiled. Dad spoke first. "I'm sorry." I waited. "For what?" He hesitated. "For everything." "No." His forehead creased. "That's too easy." Silence. "What exactly are you sorry for?" He looked down at his coffee. "I chose the easier child." That sentence surprised me. He continued. "You expected honesty. You expected fairness. Lucy expected rescue. And I kept rescuing her." Mom quietly added, "We convinced ourselves you didn't need us." I nodded slowly. "I know. We were wrong." "Yes, you were." Dad slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a cashier's check. A very large one. The attorney helped calculate what should have been yours years ago. I pushed it back. He looked confused. "You don't want it." "I didn't come for money." "Then why?" I looked at both of them. "I wanted the truth." "You have it now." "Good." I stood. Mom's eyes filled with tears. "Can we fix this?" I answered honestly. "I don't know." "Can you forgive us?" "I might." She looked hopeful. But forgiveness isn't the same as trust. Neither of them argued. Because they knew they hadn't just broken my trust once. They'd broken it for years. 6 months later, the legal process ended. Most of Grandpa's estate couldn't be undone completely. Too much time had passed. But enough evidence existed to reach a settlement. Part of the remaining trust was transferred to me exactly as Grandpa had intended. I used almost none of it for myself. Instead, Ryan and I started something we talked about since we got engaged. A scholarship for nursing students who couldn't afford school. The first scholarship was named after Grandpa. Not because of the money, because of the values he tried to leave behind. Fairness, integrity, family, the real kind. As for Lucy, she moved out of my parents' house within the year. Without unlimited financial support, reality arrived quickly. For the first time in her life, she had to build something herself. I genuinely hope she does. Not because she deserves another rescue. Because everyone deserves the chance to become better than who they used to be. People still ask me whether I regret getting married with 42 empty chairs. My answer always surprises them. No. Because those empty chairs taught me something full rooms never could. Love cannot be measured by how many people show up, only by who chooses to stay. On my wedding day, I thought I was losing my family. In reality, I was discovering who my family truly was. Ryan, his parents, my closest friends, my grandmother, the cousins brave enough to tell the truth. Those were the people who stood beside me when it mattered. And those 36 missed calls, I saved a screenshot of them, not as a reminder of betrayal, as a reminder that people often become desperate to explain themselves only after the truth catches up with them. The most important call I received that weekend wasn't one of those 36. It was the quiet promise my husband made at the altar. You'll never wonder whether someone chooses you. Every single day since then, he's kept that promise, and that's the only ending I ever really needed.